Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. I'll let you into a little secret. Oh, fuck. Good morning. Welcome back to the channel. I'll let you into a little secret. You lot think it's Sunday morning, don't you? It's not actually. It's Friday morning. I'm recording it a bit early this morning. For fuck's sake. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Take 3. I'll let you into a little secret. You think it's Sunday morning, don't you? It's not actually. I'm recording this on Friday morning. I've had a couple of days off this week, so I thought I'd get this done nice and early. There's not normally a lot goes off on Friday and Saturday that I need to include, so I thought I'd get this wrapped up nice and early. I may even post it later on today or tomorrow. I might not leave it until the Sunday. We'll see how we go. A couple of quick messages first off. Subscriber mail. I've never really understood what it is, apart from it's people sort of unwrapping things. I think I've had a subscriber mail. Somebody out there will recognise that. Steve Mack, thank you very much, mate. Much appreciated. We were chatting last week, and basically I was saying that I probably wasn't going to invest in the 4K of Time Bandits, with it being such an old movie and this, that and the other. And I would probably end up getting the Blu-ray. You suggested the Arrow, and then he came back a little bit later. I assume that you've grabbed the 4K because you offered me your Arrow copy of the Blu-ray, which I very gratefully said thank you, yes, I will accept that. And here it is. So thanks ever so much for that, Steve. Much appreciated. I've not had a chance to have a look at it yet, but you know, with it being Arrow, loads of special features on there, so there's going to be loads to go at. And I'm looking forward to seeing Time Bandits because I haven't seen it for a long time. I do remember seeing it way back in, it must have been 81 when it first came out, and thoroughly enjoyed it. I don't believe I'd seen a Terry Gilliam film before. I've not seen Jabberwocky or anything like that. So this was my first experience of Terry Gilliam. Bizarre, but really good. So thanks very much for that, Steve. Very much appreciated, mate. Just put that over there a minute. Another one. Quick hello to Scott. Best wishes, mate. He's taking a break from social media for a bit, and quite frankly, I don't blame him. So we'll all be here waiting for you, mate, when you come back. So take care of yourself. Get yourself all sorted out and come back fighting. So yeah, hope you're doing okay, mate. Right, I'm going to take this thing nice and slow this morning. I keep saying this. I seem to be rattling through it so fast just recently, especially when it comes to about the last 5 or 6 minutes, trying to cram everything in, instead of just pausing it at 29 minutes and coming back for another 10 or 15 and doing it properly. So I'm going to try and ease the pace down a bit this week. We'll start off with the usual comments. From last week's vid, Jason Kerr, our Ginger Ninja, another great vid, Tony. Thanks, Jace, much appreciated. I was asking questions about keeping videos on hard drives and stuff. As I said last week, I've got 160 something videos that are taking up one hell of a lot of space on various different hard drives. They're dotted about all over the place, and I was basically asking whether I should be keeping these videos or whether I could, you know, feasibly just delete the bloody lot, and just rely on YouTube to keep things going. You said keeping content is or can be important. I had 2 videos disappear from my ABCs of horror and had to re-upload them a month ago. Plus, as an example, the Night Watch Zone, which I'm assuming is another channel, lost their original channel and all the content on there. So there are benefits to keeping it backed up. I'm still on the fence on this one. I've not decided yet. I'm erring on the side of deleting certain ones. Maybe just keeping sort of the early ones, as I said last week, just to see how far that I've come. As far as, you know, from the first one, which was an absolute complete nightmare, up to now, but we'll see. I'm still sort of thinking about that one. And you put, as for subscribers, it will go up, then down, then up. It'll vary all the time. No need to worry about it too much unless something drastic happens. And as for dropping the C-bomb, which I'm assuming is what lost me that subscriber. But it could be anything, like you say. Who gives a toss? Quite right. If you lose a sub because of that, fuck 'em. Absolutely right. Completely and utterly agree with you on that one. Their loss, soft. That word that got me into trouble last week, I assume. Memento is one of those ones like Tenet. I've not seen Tenet. I'm a little bit afraid to actually watch it because I believe it's a long film and very confusing. Good to watch, but too many watches will break your brain. Yeah, Memento did that for me. I got the basic concept of it, but this constant going backwards and forwards, and what's he remembered and what's he not remembered, and has he remembered it this way or that way? I certainly didn't get the ending, so it's not one I'm going to be watching it again. We Still Kill the Old Way is streaming on Prime over here. Guess I know what I'll be watching this week. You'll enjoy it, mate. It's a cracking movie. I watched the trailer for that one you recommended, the Jean-Claude Van Damme one, We Die Young, and it doesn't look dissimilar to that, but a British version. I think you'll enjoy it. If you've not seen it yet, take a look, and I'd be very curious to see the review that you pop on of that one. So that's Jason. Guy. Oh, so I'm being blamed for you losing a subscriber, eh? Right, game on. Not at all, mate. Absolutely not. As I explained last week, it was all my fault. All my fault. And I don't even know that's what it was. It was my choice to read the comment out. It was my choice to actually voice that word, which I don't think I'll be doing again. It was just a one-off, but you know what I mean? People are so bloody sensitive nowadays. For Christ's sakes, loosen up a bit. Jason Parry, you actually put underneath that, I'm more offended that Revenant and Warhorse are heading for the bin. Revenant definitely is. Jury's still out on Warhorse, but I'm very tempted just to let it go, because it's highly unlikely I'll sit through it again. It was such an emotionally draining experience the first time round. I'm not sure I'm up to sitting through it again. And if I do, it's one of those movies like The Revenant. If I suddenly get the hankering to have a look at it, I'm sure I'll be able to find it. And if I really am that desperate to see it and can't find it anywhere, I'm sure there'll be copies going for pence, not pounds. So if I'm that fussed, I will just get it again. But at the moment, I really am trying to thin things out, and I'm doing quite a good job of it so far. Although you were having second thoughts on Warhorse, I was, but it is pretty much going to the charity shop, that one, I think. So we'll put that one to bed. And Jason, you put, great vid, mate. I started off watching We Still Kill the Old Way a few years ago, and as soon as the chavs started talking, it went off. I can't be doing with that shit. Do you know what I mean, blad? I don't know what you mean. That's the bleeding point. What the fuck is blad? I don't even know whether I want to go into this again. It was just the most irritating thing, and I know that kids talk like this nowadays, but for the life of me, I can't figure out why or when it started. I don't remember anybody talking like that when I was a lad. It just never happened. Then I got laughed out of school. Now, I don't know. I do get you with that. Gareth, Mr. Video Tasties, I have none of my videos backed up, only the interviews saved in the cloud. The cloud? I'm so clueless, mate, on all this. Subs go up and down. Usually the losses are bots or fake accounts that get deleted. It's weird because it went up to 113 again earlier this week, and then a couple of days later it dropped to 112, and I hadn't even done anything, so fuck knows what that was all about. But yeah, it went back up to 113, and I thought, well, hey, I've got them back, whoever it was, or it's a new one. And then another one dropped out, so I'm trying not to think about it too much, because that, like Memento, it just breaks my brain to think about it. Dave Taylor, my old cohort Dave Taylor, I do miss you, mate, and I do miss working with you, and I know I keep saying that, but I do. Tony, great video. Cheers, Dave, appreciate that. I would think on the deleted scene you mentioned from the French Connection, the French Connection is coming up again later on. It is the good cop, bad cop part, which shows how Popeye and his partner work. This needs to be seen. So not only have they trimmed a line of dialogue, it sounds from what you say, like it's a fairly sort of crucial line of dialogue. Um, On Memento, I've seen it the once and didn't really understand it. Probably going to have another look at it. I wouldn't, Dave, honestly. It won't make any more fucking sense this time round than it did the last time. But see what you think. If you do make sense of it, please drop me some sort of an explanation. I have thought about watching They Still Kill the Old Way. You had about sold it to me until you mentioned this street gang lingo issue. I'm sorry. But it's there. You would have found out about it sooner or later. If I can't get into it, I'll be turning it off. On a cop vigilante thriller type theme, I watched Walk Among the Tombstones yesterday. I quite enjoyed it for what it was. Would I watch it again? Probably not. I've heard of this and I keep coming across it on various streaming sites and thinking that actually looks quite intriguing. I may have a look at that one, Dave. Thanks for getting in contact anyway. It's always nice to hear from you, mate. Callie, Miss Violet Impulse is back. The Evil Dead retrospective. I'm about 20 minutes into it. Sorry, I had to turn it off yesterday. My phone went and I thought I've got to go and do something. So I will be finishing it off. I do agree completely with you on the lengths of movies nowadays. As you say, back in the 70s, 80s and possibly 90s, most movies were sort of 90 minutes to an hour and 40 minutes. Nowadays, you're very lucky if you get any film under 2 hours or under 2.5 or 3 hours. I'm really looking forward to seeing the new Scorsese movie, Killers of the Flower Moon. But again, 3 hours. And these are movies that you have to set aside pretty much an entire morning or an entire evening just to watch one. Whereas, 20, 30 years ago, in a morning, you could have watched 3 movies easy and got them all in. It's not the case nowadays. So I do agree with you. And much as I do enjoy a long movie that you can really get immersed in, sometimes it can be a real slog. You know this. I can't think of any off the top of my head because there are so many nowadays. But I have watched ones before and thought, about an hour and a half into it, I'm sort of doing this and thinking, bloody hell, I've got to see the end of it now. I might as well see the end of it now. I'm sort of an hour and a half, 140 minutes into it. But yeah, it can be a bit difficult. I did agree with you on that. Let's see. Practical and stop motion effects. Like you, I prefer them. I really, really do. Again, years and years ago, it's all we had. Movies like Jason and the Argonauts, the Sinbad movies, all that kind of thing. They were all stop motion effects. An American Werewolf in London was all practical effects, it's what made it so special. And I'm completely with you on that. I do prefer practical effects over CGI, but mostly it's because it's what we grew up with and it's what we know. But what I've seen on the Evil Dead retrospective that you've done, I've really, really enjoyed. My favourite, obviously, has got to be the original. I remember being not appalled, but really, really shocked on just how gory and brutal it actually was. It was relentless. I think it was only about 80 minutes long, but they didn't waste a minute of it. They really didn't. And I loved it. Evil Dead 2, I remember going to see that at the cinema, and I was probably the only person in there that wasn't laughing. I thought it was horrible at the time. Now, obviously, I see the funny side of it. You see the comical side of it. Back then, to me, it was just, again, 90 minutes of complete and utter brutality. And everybody else was pissing themselves laughing in there, but I definitely wasn't. So, but it is a good one. Army of Darkness, I've never seen. I've always been put off, but I know roughly what the story is. He goes back in time, blah blah blah, and ends up in the medieval age, 13th century, something like that. It's one that's never appealed to me, but I know it's one that I need to catch up with because it is, apart from Evil Dead Rise, which I've not had a chance to have a look at yet, it's the only one that I've never actually seen. I did see the 2013 version, which I think you're about to come on to on the video, which I will catch up with a little bit later on. And I'm assuming you enjoyed that one. But yeah, really enjoyed that. It's good to have you back, Callie. Very, very good to have you back. I did enjoy the other day the Forgotten Movies thread. Now, I'm sorry, guys, for not taking part in this. there's no reason behind it, I promise you. I just look at it and think, I can't think of one. Um, but I did enjoy the one on Jackie Chan. I've only recently just sort of got into his movies. The only one I'd seen prior to the recent ones was Operation Condor 2. Was it not Armour of God? Dave Lowe, you can probably tell me this one. I'm sure it was Operation Condor 2, something like that. And I loved it, absolutely loved it, but for some reason never followed it through with any more of his movies. But that Forgotten Movies thread on Jackie Chan was brilliant. Twin Dragons, there's not one of these that I don't want to watch. Twin Dragons, Dragons Forever. I know that's a favourite of Dave Lowe's. I think you've asked me to sort of grab hold of that one before and take a look at it, and that's one I will be doing. The Forbidden Kingdom I've never heard of. That was Jason Kay's. Chris, you mentioned The Protector. This is one I've heard a lot about, but again, never had a chance to watch. I believe this is from his American phase, isn't it? And Jason Parry, you mentioned The Foreigner. I know this is on Netflix, and I know that it's a very different Jackie Chan to what we are used to. So it is one that I would like to take a look at. Apparently it's a much more serious affair. There's not much slapstick or comedy in that one from what I've heard. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed that. Just scrolling down a bit, got all my notes here. Jason Kerr, Ginger Ninja, loving the John Carpenter season that you're doing of reviews. I watched your Vampires one yesterday. I remember seeing that one a few years ago and getting to the end of probably the first 15 minutes and thinking, fuck, it's going to get worse. Wow. I thought it was amazing. I really did. It's one that I do need to catch up on. I did spot an Arrow Blu-ray for a tenner on Amazon, so I may just invest in that and take a look. I think we talked about this before, about favourite John Carpenter movies. I'm sure it was you that I was talking to about it, but I can't remember what you said your favourite Carpenter movie was. Mine goes right back to his humble beginnings, Assault on Precinct 13, which I thought was just the coolest thing ever. Barry Norman reviewed this on what would have been then Film 76, and he quite liked it, and he did show a clip of it, basically the gang ripping the police station up with bullets using these guns with silencers, which I just thought were the coolest thing at the time. Now obviously I was way too young to get into the cinema to see it. It would have been an X certificate back then, so I'd have only been about 13, 14. But I do remember thinking, I've got to get that as soon as I'm old enough to grab hold of it. I need to get that. And I did. I believe it was on a media home video copy, which was really ropey. Those media home entertainment ones were not the best. They all seem to be moving slightly in slow motion. Halloween was the same. So when we did get a proper DVD and then a Blu-ray release, I was absolutely stunned on how brilliant these movies looked. But I do need to grab a copy of Assault on Precinct 13 on Blu-ray for sure, because I'll bet it looks absolutely stunning. As for the remake, again, I've never seen it. I mean, Ethan Hawke doesn't usually do bad movies, but I can't imagine this living up to the original from 76, but I may take a look at it at some point. But yeah, I'd be curious to know what your favourite Carpenter movie is, mate, and keep those reviews coming. I'm really enjoying them. Cult Lords, JR and Dane, loved the Renfield review. Hi to you guys. I haven't said hello to you guys for ages. I can't keep up with yours. You sort of post, I think it's every day or every other day. And I get to the end of the week and it's like, oh God, I've got 2 hours of the videos to catch up on. So please forgive me. I will try to keep up with you from now on. But really enjoyed that one. I've not seen Renfield yet, but yeah, I would certainly be taking a look at it. Nicolas Cage as Dracula, how could you possibly say no to that? And obviously Nicholas Hoult, who I remember mostly from a series called Skins on Channel 4. I believe he was in that. And also About a Boy with Hugh Grant, which was based on a book, but I've not seen him in much else, I don't think. But yeah, looking forward to taking a look at that. So hi to you too. Lee John Barber, oh my God. You said to me a few weeks ago, one day I'm going to send you a post about half an hour before you're due to record, which will get you so wound up you're going to fly into some kind of a rant. This is probably one that would have done it. You put a post on about the new Oscars Best Picture inclusion rules. Here we go. Oscar voters have slammed the Academy as completely ridiculous after new diversity rules for Best Picture means that some of the most lauded previous winners, such as The Godfather, Schindler's List, would not qualify for nomination. It gets worse. Under the new regulations, films will need to meet minimum requirements related to representation and inclusion. This means from 2024, the Academy of Motion Pictures will disqualify films from Best Picture contention that are deemed not to have enough actors in the cast and crew who are ethnic minorities from the LGBTQ community or are disabled. Seriously? You honestly want to go down that road? This means no nominations for previous winners, including All the President's Men, brilliant movie, The Godfather, classic, Gladiator, excellent film. Oh, the person who's basically reported this didn't want to be named. He's quite a prominent filmmaker in Hollywood, and I think he wants to avoid all the crap that will come with it. But Richard Dreyfuss, who never shows any fear whatsoever, says that they make me vomit. Inclusivity rules that treat people like children, and absolutely right. Do you know what? Why do people go along with this kind of thing? I would basically say, if I was a filmmaker, do you know what? I'm going to make these films exactly how I want to make them, and if they don't meet the requirements and I don't get nominated for Best Picture, fuck them. Who cares? It's somebody at some point has got to take a stand with all of this, but it is absolutely ridiculous. Oh God. Which leads me nicely onto the French Connection. The French Connection controversy revisited. As you know from last week and possibly the week before, Fox have obviously bought, Disney have now bought all of Fox's back catalogue. This was a few years ago. And straight out of the blue, they decided to clip a line of dialogue from the 1971 William Friedkin movie, The French Connection. And as Dave Taylor said earlier, it's a pretty crucial line that they've clipped. And they clipped it due to racial slurs. Now, woke culture is actually taking over, and it's got to be stopped. It is getting absolutely ridiculous. I really enjoyed your video on this, by the way, Gareth. Really enjoyed it. It infuriated the fuck out of me, but I really enjoyed it. I mean, just as an example, and this is straight off the top of my head, I started watching this week the series on Disney Plus of The Full Monty. Classic movie. I'm 2 episodes into this series and absolutely loving it. But there is a cafe in the series, just a little corner cafe called the Big Baps. And also Stacey Slater in EastEnders has a burger van called Stacey's Baps. Do you know what? It makes you smile. For the first few times you hear it, and then you don't think anything of it. In The Full Monty, a young girl on her way to school walks past the cafe and says to the owner, "Have you any idea how offensive that is?" and walks off. And straight off, I thought that perfectly typifies exactly what I'm talking about. Do you know what? Is this a legal requirement when you get people saying you've got to change the name of something because it's offensive? Is this a legal thing, or is this just what they're suggesting? Because if it was a sort of a legal thing, obviously you've got to do it begrudgingly, but you've got to do it. But if it's not a legal thing, I think the answer is on your fucking bike. You know, I mean, I'll call it what I want, and that's it. But that pretty much, summed up exactly how it's all going now. People are just actively looking for things to be offended by. And you were scrolling through, Gareth, Fox's, I presume it's Fox's back catalogue, 20th Century Fox, and it is vast, immense. I mean, it must have took a good minute to scroll down them all. There were hundreds, possibly thousands. I mean, are you telling me that Disney are going to systematically go through every single title in Fox's back catalogues and their own, and basically clip out things that, you know, they deem to be either offensive or inappropriate for today's audience? Are they really going to do that? How long is that going to take? And the other thing is, what is physical media going to look like, you know, in a year or two? Are you going to be buying a movie that you've seen, you know, many, many times? It comes out on Blu-ray, you grab a copy, you watch it, and straight away, if you're like me, I will spot straight away when something's been cut out. It usually happens with something like the Carry On movies, when they screen them on ITV3. Within 5 minutes, I can say, that's cut, turn it off. We'll just put the DVD on. At least we know we're going to get the full thing with it. But somebody at some point has got to stand up and say enough is enough, and it's got to be somebody high up, and I mean really high up, who's got to look at all this and say, do you know what, you know, you're talking about clipping lines out of this, and it's basically because we've offended, like you said, Gareth, probably 3 people on Twitter. Can't we just tell them to get stuffed, you know, grow a fucking pair? You know what I mean? Just accept it. It's you know, your life is not going to change. I mean, it's like blaxploitation movies. Are they going to be considered offensive to black people now? You know what I mean? They were a vital part of 70s cinema. Are they now going to turn around and say, do you know what, these are completely inappropriate nowadays? You know what I mean? It's just ridiculous. And I've put together here, you put together a list. You were showing some VHS movies, you know, that you think are going to be affected. And these are some of my favourite movies that are absolutely going to be directly affected by all of this. Starting off with my first one, my favourite movie ever, Saturday Night Fever. If they get hold of this, and these are not all Fox, well, I don't know whether any of them are Fox movies, but if the powers that be get hold of this, they will not stand a chance, due to the, I mean, the language, racist slurs, homophobic slurs, sexist slurs, the way they treat the women is absolutely appalling. But again, it was an accurate portrayal of 1970s New York life. But this, if you cut this, you'd have about 9 minutes of it left. They did do an A certificate version in the 70s because it was so popular and the kids couldn't get in to see it. They decided to clip out all of the language and some of the scenes, the gang rape in the back of the car, that had to go obviously, and they re-released it as an A certificate, and it did really well, but mostly because obviously the kids that couldn't get in to see it originally managed to get in. But it was a far inferior version to this. I would love to see it again just to see what it looks like. I believe it's on YouTube. I may take a look, but this movie would not stand a chance against all that. Gregory's Girl. This would definitely have sequences cut out of it. Male teachers making inappropriate remarks about sixth form schoolgirls would not, definitely would not fly nowadays, so that would suffer. Rita, Sue and Bob too. Oh God, where do you even start with this one? Racist language, again, wouldn't stand a chance. Quadrophenia, this has got a couple of instances of racist language, sexist behaviour, all that kind of thing. Again, wouldn't stand a chance. The King, Blazing Saddles. Well, trim all of the offensive stuff out of this and you've got a movie that will last about 7 minutes. But again, we love it. We absolutely love it. It came out nearly 50 years ago, and obviously the kind of humour that is in this would not be tolerated now. It just wouldn't, and probably quite rightly so. But it was back then, and we still laugh at it. So I think you mentioned this one, Gareth. Flight of the Navigator. The brothers basically calling each other names. That would have to go. That's another one. Ken Russell's The Devils. Again, where the hell do you even start with this? It's got such a history. I could pretty much do a video all on its own of this one, but there are certain scenes in this that would not escape. The St. Trinians movies, classic British comedies, but schoolgirls in stockings and suspenders nowadays? I don't think so. Breakfast at Tiffany's. Well, All I'll say is Mickey Rooney's impersonation of a Chinese gentleman. That would pretty much have to go, and he's in several scenes, so how the hell you would actually trim that, I don't know. The rest of the movie, absolutely brilliant. And finally, Glengarry Glen Ross, and these are just ones that I picked off the shelf at random. And this would, I mean, the race, not racist, the tirade of abuse within the first 15 minutes of this would probably have to be trimmed if they got hold of this one. But that's just a handful of ones that I picked at random off the shelf. So yeah, this has got to stop. It's getting absolutely ridiculous. Please, somebody in Hollywood, just stand up and say, you know, stop it. Please just stop it. You're going to ruin us, and they will. And this is not the last time you'll be hearing about this. I will be going on about this again, I can guarantee you so. Right, I'm coming up to 30 minutes, so I'm going to take a little break, and I'll be back with you in just a few seconds. And we're back. Right, where was I? Ranting about the woke wankers. One thing I did forget to mention when I was showing off all those movies that would suffer if they, oh fuck. And we're back. Right, where were we? One thing I forgot, well, kind of forgot to mention in the first half. Fuck. And we're back. Right, where was I? Ranting about the woke wankers. One thing I did forget to mention when I was showing off all those movies that would suffer if they, oh fuck. And we're back. Right, where was I? One thing I forgot to mention when I was showing off those movies that would suffer if the woke brigade actually got their way, I forgot to mention these very important movies. The Bond films. I've been here before with this one. They are coming for your Bond films, believe me. So grab them now while you can. This is another series that would absolutely suffer something chronic if these people ever got control. There are so many things in there that would, you know, that would irk them. They would have to go. Certain lines of dialogue, Bond's attitude to women. Oh, do you know what? These films are like 50 years old plus. Get over it. So yeah, I'm not going to say any more on that, but it is a subject that I will be coming back to. I guarantee you. And Lee, if you post any more articles like that, that is pretty much what's going to happen. So I look forward to seeing what you're going to come up with next on that. I've minimised my notes and I don't know why. Just bear with me. Where was I? Right. Quick hello to Dave Oliver. Not said hi for ages, mate. Enjoyed your Flash review. I've been listening to various podcasts this week and it seems to have come out very, very positive with this one. As you say, I'm not a massive fan of superhero movies anyway, but this one sounds like something a little bit different. So it is probably one that I would like to take a look at. Mostly, as with yourself, the nostalgia value as far as the 1989 Batman, Michael Keaton reappearing, and also the Batman theme from that year, which is very distinctive. So it is one that I probably will be taking a look at. Which was the other one you did? Craven the Hunter. You know what? I watched your review before I watched the trailer, and I was pretty much convinced that I wasn't going to bother with it. I thought if he's not on board with this one, it really isn't going to do much for me. And then I watched the trailer and thought, actually, do you know what? That doesn't look bad. It does look a little on the brutal side. It doesn't look like your average family-friendly Marvel movie, but it is something that I could probably see myself watching. I think you were kind of on the fence about it, but I think I definitely will be having a look at that one. I don't know why, there was just something that really, really intrigued me about it. But a great review, mate, as per usual. Another little bit of news that I meant to mention last week, the Odeon in Weston-super-Mare And I know this has no relevance whatsoever to Burton, but it's about to close its doors, which is heartbreaking. There were pictures on Facebook of this place. It just looked absolutely gorgeous, and it's about to close its doors, and it reminded me very much of when Burton Odeon closed. Um, it was just the saddest thing. I'd spent so many hours sitting in there from aged about 14 um, up until it closed, really. And I saw some of the most amazing, iconic, brilliant movies in there, and I will never forget them. And some movies that, were not so much iconic but just brilliant anyway. Neil Diamond in The Jazz Singer, Monster, the one which was basically known as the Rapey Lizards movie. Remember that one, Chris? Saw that there. So many movies. Warlords of Atlantis, which I absolutely adored and saw many, many times during the 2-3 weeks it was there. I believe it was on a double bill with Doc Savage, The Man of Bronze. Both movies I absolutely loved. And I just, every chance I got, I went and watched it again and again. I must have seen it 10, 15 times in the 3 weeks. To the point where I used to walk in and the girl on the ticket desk used to use Warlords of Atlantis. Yep. Simple as that. And Doc Savage, The Man of Bronze, I managed to get on Blu-ray quite a while ago, but I've not yet managed to track down a Blu-ray copy of Warlords of Atlantis. And if one does, I'm just going to move the camera a little bit closer. Not because I'm vain, but because I'm looking too small. What was I saying? Warlords of Atlantis. I would just love a Blu-ray copy of that. It's not available yet, but I live in hope that they will release that on Blu-ray. It's just brilliant movie from the makers of The Land That Time Forgot, The People That Time Forgot, The Earth's Core, that kind of thing. One of those mid-70s Doug McClure monster movies. Not particularly brilliant when you watch it now. It probably looks really ropey and a bit sort of clunky, but back then I loved it. So yeah, the Odeon in Weston-super-Mare, it will be sadly missed, although somebody did put a comment on there basically saying that the place was in such a state of disrepair inside that it's hardly surprising that it's going. Still sad. Right, 3 movies that I've been in this week. I've got all sorts of stuff here. These are my 3 that are going this week, and I'll be taking these down to the charity shop as soon as I finish this, actually, along with all the others that I've got rid of. First one, the MCU. You poor MCU, you are definitely suffering with this. Thor, this is the one that I was going to watch next, but it's on Disney Plus. So I can catch it on there. This is as far as I've got with my MCU journey, so I'm way behind. The next one after that, I believe, is Avengers Assemble, and people tell me that is when the series really starts to pick up speed and get a lot better. So not many good reviews of this. I've actually spoken to a colleague at work who mentioned this one, and he says it's not brilliant. Neither is the second Thor movie, but the third one, I think he said Ragnarok. I think it was Ragnarok. He reckons that one's brilliant. So that one's going. Oh, this one isn't even out of the cellophane, so I've not watched it. Straight Outta Compton. This absolutely falls into the category, what the fuck was I thinking? I can't remember why I bought it, whether I saw it on Amazon for a ridiculously low price, as in pence rather than pounds. I believe this was on one of the top 10s that I read out, and I think this was one that I thought, you know what, this will completely take me out of my comfort zone. So I thought I'd grab a copy. As I say, it's not even out of the cellophane, so the charity shop's going to think all the Christmases have come at once with that one. But what swung it for this, well, with this movie, was watching We Still Kill the Old Way, and those annoying teenagers talking like Caribbean rejects or whatever the hell they are. And I thought, I mean, this movie is, I believe, the best part of 2.5 hours long. I can't see the running time here. This is a long ass movie, and I thought, if I can't stand 90 minutes of that, how the hell am I going to cope with 2.5 or more hours of that and a rap soundtrack? It ain't happening. So I thought, do you know what? I'll cut my losses. Again, this is on streaming all the time, so if I do get the urge to take this in, I can find it quite easily. So, final one is a TV series from the 60s. Now, I loved this series, and for some reason, the only volume I bought was volume 1. This is a network release, so I could probably... These are going for ridiculous prices. By the way, talking of that, I went on Amazon yesterday to look at some network TV series that I haven't yet got, and I thought I'll probably grab a couple. And people are taking advantage of it already. You know, series that were going for like 15 or 16 pounds are now going for 50 or 60 pounds. And it's like, here we go, everybody's now going to be listing these things for stupidly extortionate prices, basically taking advantage of the fact that network have gone under and you can't get them anywhere else. Shame on you. So yeah, this is one. I have actually got this whole series on DVD, and I don't think the Blu-ray format lends itself particularly brilliant to this. So I thought I'd let that one go. I won't miss that one. So that's my 3 for this week. Let's see. Series that I grew up with. This one, Peyton Place. This is actually volume 4. It was released by, I believe it's Shout Factory. Now, I understood that they were going to be releasing the entire series. I grew up with this thanks to my mum, who used to watch this religiously every afternoon at around about 3 o'clock. And I'm going back a long way. This was when I was at junior school and probably used to finish about 3 o'clock. The first thing she did when we got in was to put Peyton Place on. So I kind of grew up with this and loved it. This was the original super soap, way before Dallas, Dynasty, Falcon Crest, all of that sort of thing. This made stars of Mia Farrow, Ryan O'Neal. Quite a few people appeared in this. And started their acting careers in this. This is a wonderful series. They only got as far as releasing up to part 4. I believe there have been another 6 or 7 volumes of this to come. But having contacted Shout Factory, they basically said the sales have not been good enough to warrant releasing the rest of the series. So I was a bit disappointed in that, and I'm kind of hoping that one of the streaming services is going to pick this up and screen the whole thing. I'd have to go back to the beginning again because I can't remember a lot of it, and I'm already about 115 episodes in, but they're only 20 minutes each. But I loved this, absolutely loved this. I just wish we'd have got far enough to go into the colour episodes because I'm only onto the black and white ones at the moment. But I will sort of carry on with this and hope, as I say, that the streaming services pick up on that. But that's my series that I grew up with for this week. Right, Guy, this one's for you. I promised I'd do a Doctor Who update, and rather than do a separate thing, seeing as I'm sitting here in front of the camera, I might as well do it now. The last one that I took in was this one, The War Machine. This is also for Chris, because I believe he was on the same journey. I don't know whether you still are, mate. The War Machines. The basic premise of this is the GPO tower has just been built, and the whole thing is controlled by a computer called Wotan, I believe, Wotan. And guess what? Wotan actually wants to take over the world by building what look like huge metal boxes with arms and plungers sticking out of them, reminiscent of Daleks actually, but nowhere near as stylish as that. I quite enjoyed this one. We've been introduced to what I think is going to be a new companion, Ben, who is in the Navy and has disappeared with the Doctor at the end of this one. I do actually find him quite irritating. But this, I really enjoyed this one. Really enjoyed this one. It's set in London, so it's earthbound. And yeah, really enjoyed this. Again, you've got many special features on the back of this. So yeah, that was the last one that I took in. The one I'm now working on, I'm 2 episodes in with this, is the final William Hartnell story, The 10th Planet. This is the first appearance of the Cybermen. Iconic monsters as far as Doctor Who goes. They've been around almost as long as the Daleks. These are quite a primitive version of the Cybermen. I'm only 2 episodes into this, so I can't really tell you much about this. They've landed on a planet. Basically like an Arctic station, a bit like The Thing, the John Carpenter movie The Thing, that kind of thing, on a distant planet, and they've just discovered sort of a race of Cybermen. There's very little I can tell you about this. I really do need to go back on the first 2 episodes because it's a couple of weeks since I watched them, just to remind myself. But this is the final William Hartnell story, and then I can finally crack on with the Troughton era, which I'm really, really looking forward to. Patrick Troughton was awesome. So I'm really looking forward to getting into that one, finishing it off and cracking on with Patrick Troughton's movies series. Right, let's see, what have we got here? I've been promising for weeks to do 5 of my favourite 70s horror movies. I promised Scott I'd do this weeks ago and never got round to it. So here we go, very, very quickly. First one is The Beast Must Die. Now, I spoke about this one last week. This is the one with the werewolf break, probably about 10 minutes before the end of it, which basically gives you a chance to steady your nerves if you're of a nervous disposition, and also try to figure out who is the werewolf. Basically, a group of people gather on an island at the request of a big game hunter who owns the estate. And one of these people is a werewolf, and you've got to try and figure out who it is. Really, really enjoyed this. Typical 1970s. 1974 this was made. Very sort of 70s soundtrack, 70s look. Really, really enjoyed that one. Next one is this one, Fright. Stars Susan George Cole, Dennis Waterman, and Honor Blackman. This is the original Babysitter in Peril movie. This predates movies like When a Stranger Calls, Halloween, which were all Babysitters in Peril movies. This, as far as I'm concerned, is the original one. This was made in 1971. It's a British movie. Cracking film. If you've never seen it, this is 70s, early 70s horror at its absolute best, and it comes highly recommended by me, that one. Next one is this little beauty, Magic. Stars Burgess Meredith and Anthony Hopkins. Anthony Hopkins plays a ventriloquist who is also schizophrenic and basically controlled by the dummy, which is called Fats. Anne Margaret is also in this. This was way after she played in the movie Tommy with Oliver Reed. But this is really, really good. Anthony Hopkins is just superb in this. He's the perfect vision of paranoia, all that. His portrayal of that almost rivals Jack Nicholson in The Shining. But have a look at that and see what you think and let me know. Next one, Deathline. Something unpleasant is happening on the London Underground. There are cannibals down there. This stars Donald Pleasance. Who else is in it? Oh, it only mentions Donald Pleasance, who is obviously the only person in this. Christopher Lee is in this as well. This was an exceptionally violent movie for its time. I believe this was about 1972, and it was a certificate X because it says so on the back of the box. This comes recommended. I haven't seen it for quite a while, but I do remember being struck by how nasty it was at the time. And my final one from the 70s, and there are many, many of these, but I've just separated 5 because I promised I'd do it. The Fury. This is Brian De Palma. It's based on a novel. It stars Kirk Douglas, about 2 siblings who are telekinetic and being sort of examined by a government body. They go missing and the government body decide to chase after them. This basically reminded me a lot of Scanners, which actually came after this. Scanners was about 4 years after this. This is from 1977. But Brian De Palma was definitely showing a lot of promise with this. And then you look at this and you think, yeah, I can see where sort of Dressed to Kill, all the other ones that he did, Carrie, you can see his style in this right the way through. But that was made in 1977, and this is a brilliant movie. So yeah, that's my 5 70s horrors for this week. What did I watch last Saturday? I think I showed this. Just let me find the right one. Psycho. Do you know what? This thing never gets boring, and it doesn't. This is part of a box set. Really nice looking box set as well. Hitchcock movies. I think there's about 13 of them in here, but you've got all sorts. Just flip through them very quickly. There's all sorts in there. Rope. Marnie's in there. The Bird's in there. Watched Psycho last week. My enduring memory of Psycho was my dad saw it many years ago. He was in the Navy before I was born, and those that didn't want to go on shore leave were given a film show, and he told me that one of them was Psycho, and he's never ever forgotten it. He said at the time he'd never seen anything quite like it ever in his life. It scared the hell out of everybody. So that's my endearing memory of Psycho, but the movie itself is absolutely brilliant. What can you say about Psycho that hasn't already been said? So yeah, that was last Saturday's Pizza on a Movie night. Next week's is going to be Psycho 2, followed by the week after Psycho 3. Don't know about Psycho 4, not sure about that one, but we shall see how we go. Maybe the remake, but again, I can't see the point because you've pretty much seen it. Now, what else have I got here? Oh, somebody brought these round to me and said, do you remember these? I'd never seen one before. I've seen pictures of them, and I've probably seen videos of them, but not... Did you remember these? I believe they're called 8-track stereos. Who had one of these? I didn't. Were these something for the car? I think they were. Did these predate cassettes? That's one. This is another one. Just called Black Music. Would that fly nowadays? Probably not. And another one, Carpenters, A Song for You. 8-track stereos. Never seen them before. As soon as I saw them, I thought, I'm going to hold on to these. I'm definitely going to show these to the group. So who had an 8-track stereo years ago, and what were they like? Very curious to hear on that one, but that was a new one on me. What have I bought this week? Let's see. As I said earlier, coming to the Patrick Troughton era of Doctor Who, so had to get the first one, Power of the Daleks. Now this is animated because none of the episodes of this actually exist anymore. They've been missing for decades, but the BBC have taken, as usual, some audio recordings of the episodes and created this rather nice animated version in black and white. So really looking forward to that. That's going to be my first foray into the William Hartnell era. Let Them Eat Cake. I came upon this by accident reading something and thought, French and Saunders, I didn't know they'd done one set in the court of Marie Antoinette. So I thought I'll grab that. Watched it, absolutely brilliant, so funny, completely politically incorrect. This is from about 1999, 2000. Has anybody else heard of this? Because I hadn't. But yeah, I really enjoyed this, really enjoyed it. It's just so funny. And finally, it had to happen, and this is probably the effect that they wanted to have with this. The French Connection. They're obviously going to send people into panic buying certain titles that they think are going to be clipped or censored. This is a Blu-ray set of The French Connection and The French Connection 2, the sequel. Now I've seen the original French Connection. Classic movie, not particularly brilliant, a little bit slow, but I really enjoyed it. I haven't seen the second one, so I don't know. But after what I've been reading over the last couple of weeks, I thought, you know, I'll grab a copy of this. And then obviously Gareth's video came along, and he was scrolling through all those titles, and I thought, there's no way I'm going to be buying all of that. Just because they're basically under threat of being censored. So I'm gonna stick at that one for now. And another couple of magazines that I grabbed hold of. The latest issue of Scream, which looks absolutely superb, featuring articles on The Shining, The Abominable Dr. Fives, and Werewolf Cinema. So looking forward to having a read of that. And also these two. Yours Retro, which is basically retro movies, TV, music, everything retro. Really enjoy a good read of that on the tea break. And the latest issue of SFX. You've got articles on Star Trek, Doctor Who, Secret Invasion, which I believe is the new Marvel series. So I'll have a read of that. Right, and I've been promising to do this for ages. Dave Lowe's top 10 movies. And I think I've pretty much covered everything else. I'm just scrolling up now to see whether I've missed anything. This is going to be a long ass haul, folks. This is going to be nearly an hour. Right, these are in no particular order, so I'll just go down the list. First one, Teen Wolf. Oh my God, I can't believe I've still not seen it. There are clips of it on the Michael J. Fox documentary Still, which I watched 2-3 weeks ago, and I thought I really, really need to get into that one, so I will be taking that one in. The Last Dragon. We were talking about this, Dave. I've heard of it. A mate of mine was very much into this. I know of it. It was made by the Motown studio, which kind of surprised me. It had got a song that charted. Was it Rhythm of the Night? Yeah, that. So you're waiting for the 4K release on this. So you basically are hanging, waiting for that to come out. I'd be very tempted by that, actually. It's one that I've not seen, but I wouldn't mind a look at it. Again, I'd go into it completely blind. The next one, Clerks 2. I've seen Clerks 1. Here we go, the old story. But I've not seen Clerks 2 or 3 yet. So I do definitely need to take a look at those. Gremlins, what a classic. What a classic movie. This was a movie that I put on for my dad. He's not, well, wasn't a massive fan of fantasy movies at all. He was into his war films, basically true to life, true stories, stuff like that. So when I put Gremlins on, I thought, there's no way he's going to like this. He absolutely bloody loved it. So yeah, it's a classic movie. The sequel, Gremlins 2, The New Batch, that was good as well. Conan the Barbarian. Not seen it. At least I don't think I have. If I did, it didn't make much of an impression on me. So it's one that I wouldn't mind taking a look at. RoboCop. Oh my God, what a movie. This is one of Chris's favourites. Absolutely brilliant. I do remember when I first got my DVD player importing the unrated edition from the States, and remember watching it and thinking, oh my God, this is horrible. This is truly horrible. I mean, the British version was sort of violent enough, but I had no idea how much had actually been cut out of that movie until I saw this version. So yeah, that kind of took my breath away. But brilliant. Dragons Forever. This is one I definitely want to take a look at. This is one that was mentioned on the Jackie Chan thread, Forgotten Movies, last week. And it is one that Dave has mentioned to me a few times, so I will be taking that in. Ghostbusters, brilliant, absolutely superb. This is another movie that would not survive the censor scissors if these woke idiots get in. But superb. 1978's version of Superman. Christopher Reeve will always be Superman to me. Nobody else can play him, as far as I'm concerned. I've not seen Henry Cavill do it. I've heard he's very good, but I've not seen any, so I don't know. But to me, Christopher Reeve is my Superman. Always will be, always has been. Short Circuit. This is another one that I caught up with for the first time probably a year or two back, and absolutely loved it. There are so many of these 80s movies that I'm now gradually starting to catch up with, and the first thing I think when I've watched it is, why the hell have I left this so long? That was amazing, and Short Circuit was one of them. Right, honourable mentions, Good Will Hunting. Do you know what? Every movie list that I read out on a top 10, there's always one that catches me by surprise, and I think, see that one coming. This was yours. I don't know why. If I'd have mentioned Good Will Hunting and you, I would not put the two together. Don't know why. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. The scene in the bar, where he's basically, let's see now. This guy has just embarrassed Ben Affleck, and Matt Damon pulls him up on it. It's just brilliantly done. Goonies and Flight of the Navigator. Two total classics and two 80s classics, again, that I only caught up with probably a year or two back, and again regretted it. Loved both of them. Ghostbusters and Explorers. I think Ghostbusters was on the original list. Oh, I've gone. Bear with me. Explorers I've never seen. I do know it stars a very young River Phoenix, Ethan Hawke, can't remember who else. It's one that I always meant to catch up with when it was in the video shop when it came out on VHS. I always used to look at the case and think that looks like a really cheap, nasty movie, and then all of a sudden it's gained this cult following over the years. So it's one I do want to take in. Red Sonja. This is another Arnie movie which I've never seen. Brigitte Nielsen, I believe, is in this. Krull, saw that one a long time ago at the cinema. Really, really good fantasy movie, along with the same sort of lines as Willow, that kind of thing. Really, really enjoyed it. Beverly Hills Cop, total classic. They are bringing him back, I believe, for one final instalment. I'd have thought he'd be getting a bit old for it now. I think it's Netflix that are doing that. But yeah, along with the soundtrack, Axel F, just Harold Faltermeyer, just superb. Never Ending Story, family classic, absolutely loved it. Teary as hell by the end of it, but really, really good. That's another one that I've not seen for quite a while, so I do need to take that one in again. Labyrinth, didn't get it, but loved it. David Bowie as the Goblin King. Is it something to do with the baby being kidnapped and Jennifer Connelly has to go into this weird world to rescue the baby, that kind of thing. It's another one that I do need to re-watch, definitely. And Thursday, this is one I've never heard of. We talked about this the other week. I've managed to get a copy and I will take a look at it, but I've never ever heard of this movie, Thursday. So I'm looking forward to taking a look at that. And that is Dave Lowe's Top 10. Right, I can't believe I've bobbled on for an hour. Thanks ever so much for joining me, folks. I'll put a post on later on just asking whether you want this posting virtually straight away or do you want to hold on till Sunday. If you've enjoyed the video, like, share, subscribe, all that sort of thing. Have a brilliant weekend, folks. Thanks again ever so much for joining me, and I will talk to you all again roughly about the same time next week. Take care. Ta-da.